Resident Evil 3 is just on the horizon, uncovering a vicious path of horror, abominations, and blood. But while I eagerly await for my neck to be bit off once more in Raccoon City, I want to explore two games before it that set in stone the path the franchise has been taking recently. Today, we will be comparing Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2 Remake. Both titles attempt to go back to their roots, which, as we all know, went so well before with Capcom. But 7 and 2 have actually amassed high appeal, and although they both still have flaws, it's sure that these games take into consideration all the mechanics and horror of 1996. Today we compare
Resident Evil.
And while we're on the topic about the title screen announcer, immediately RE2 gets a point because Resident Evil 7 has no announcer mentioning the name of the game. So Resident Evil 2 gets a head start into... Huh? What? Oh, right. It's a DLC pack. Fine, we'll give Resident Evil 2 Remake a half point. They did it, but we shouldn't have to pay for it. But I guess it's still better than not having one at all. So, now I want to divide both games into separate categories in order to give a final rating to them, and choose a victor. The categories I will be using to compare these games are as follows: gameplay, music, threat, scare factor, graphics, puzzles, and faithfulness to the series as a whole.
Gameplay.
To start, the moment-to-moment gameplay. Resi 2 and 7 actually share many qualities while also being vastly different. RE7 is in first person, RE2 is in third. RE2 pausing actually pauses the game, RE7 does not. Healing takes time and blocking enemy attacks is vital. Blocking doesn't even exist and all you can really do is run for your life. However, both games also have similar qualities. Combining items is still an important and crucial asset in both games. Inventory management can make or break situations. Items and ammo are still scarce, leaving you with a constant sense of insecurity, and knowledge of the game is absolutely key. Overall, 7 takes a more immersive approach of guiding you through like a roller coaster that never stops, where even simply checking how many herbs you have fills you with dread. It tries to be a horror movie Blair Witch style to spook and scare you while also giving you the option to fight back. 2, on the other hand, takes a cinematic approach of watching someone else encounter all the horrors of Raccoon City, and going through an already told story of Leon and Claire. And in 2, nearly everything is during gameplay. When 7 gets a jump scare, it's a cutscene where you can't do anything. But when 2 does one, it's while you're still playing the game, shooting your veins full of adrenaline and pure fear as you try to cower away from whatever hulking mass is trying to crush you into a pulp at the moment. Overall, I'll give both a point for just how vastly different yet similar the actual gameplay is.
Music.
Now before talking about the music, it should be made apparent that I'm not using the amazing OST of the original RE2 here. We'll be using the new remake OST that came with the base game. Off the bat, I'm going to have to give Resident Evil 7 the point here. While Resident Evil 2's music is amazing, it just seems more generic compared to RE7. 7 has more of a southern theme that can be made apparent through its savor music. While RE2 has an industrial vibe with a hint of horror and sounds very Resident Evil, it's not its best. And while I love this theme, it's incomparable to the original Resi 2 or Resi 7's, which is just more vastly atmospheric and recognizable. As soon as you hear this theme, you know it's Resident Evil 7.
Threat.
Mostly what I'm talking about here are the enemies, especially those that can't really be killed by conventional means, meaning Jack Baker and Mr. X. But I'll also quickly mention the more normal enemies. The molded in Resident Evil 7 have very little character and horror woven into them, and although they are hard to kill, most of the time they will be blasted away with a shotgun anyway. There are ways to deprive molded of limbs like their arms or legs, but in all of my different playthroughs of the game, I've never once used one of these methods. Shooting them in the head is just better. In Resident Evil 2, the zombies are clearly more distinct and filled with character, mostly since you could tell they were actually people once. And you could even get a glimpse of their life, like the police zombies or the sewer worker zombies. These zombies have also been tougher to kill, but now, shooting them in the head is not as viable. While it gives a chance to crit and helps keep zombies go down for good, sometimes you will have to refer to detaching their legs to make them less mobile, or their arms to not let them grapple you. In my normal playthrough, I didn't actually have many issues with simply shooting them all in the head, but in my hardcore playthrough, where zombies are even harder to kill, and headshots have less of a chance of stunning zombies, it's crucial. But enough of the zombies, now the infamous Jack Baker and Mr. X. I compare these two because they both have free roaming sections in their respective games. Jack Baker around the house after your first boss battle with him, and Mr. X after encountering him when he lifts the helicopter. However, they both have some flaws. For one, anyone knowledgeable in the Resident Evil games knows that ducking into a save room will have the otherwise unstoppable enemies stop dead in their tracks and walk away. This is just simply extremely artificial and unthreatening, but Resident Evil 7 has it even worse. Everyone who's played the game more than once knows the trick to get Jack downstairs into the dining room area, hide in the safe room, and he'll roam there for a while, leaving you to pretty much never see him again until the next boss fight you have with him. Jack Baker is a temporary threat that is way too short and roams in an area that has too many places where you can escape him. Mr. X, however, is always looming around the player and genuinely investigating the RPD one large stomp at a time. The tension constantly builds between you and the tyrant as you try to keep looking for items and running away with your life. Also, you have to simultaneously deal with other pesky zombies while dealing with Mr. X, something that doesn't really happen in RE7. In conclusion, point goes to Resident Evil 2 for creating a tense atmosphere with a looming, unkillable enemy constantly following you around, and for having smaller enemies that require more skill and strategy to overcome. I'm now going to show you a clip I made while playing RE7 on my second or third playthrough to give you a breath of the anxiety driven in these games. You're in the basement, scrounging for supplies before heading to the next boss battle. Wary of any enemies, you round the corner and aim with your shotgun, which you anxiously see has only 2 bullets remaining in the barrel, expecting trouble, but none arise. Confident, you start walking up the stairs, until the idea dawns on you to check just how many healing items you have in your inventory. When suddenly, BAM! Scared to death, you see a body of a molded fly off from your trigger finger, failing to sneak up on you while you were defenseless. This was a genuinely scary moment for me. I mean, it also felt super cool how I did that, but the thought that if I hadn't listened enough, or been scared enough to watch my back, could have meant my life terrified me. But to further a point, Resident Evil 7 has a way of scaring you through phobias. Don't like bugs? We got those. Afraid of creepy grandmothers? Got 'em. Don't like a chainsaw in your stomach? Go see a doctor because you're clearly insane if you don't like a good saw in your bowels. In Resident Evil 2, all there is really nice looking gore. And of course, there's people afraid of that, but where's the old school spiders on the walls? Shit freaks me out all the time when playing Resi 2. Point to Resident Evil 7.
Graphics.
I'm not gonna bore you with this too much. Both get a point. RE2 obviously looks better than any other Resi game since it's the newest, but RE7 still holds up even today since 2017. Even if there could be some minor improvements, the game still looks good today.
Puzzle.
RE2 gets a point. RE7's puzzles suck. They're not creative and a 3-year-old could solve them with ease. The most elaborate puzzle is the one where you have to replace the real shotgun with a broken or model one, but do you know why? Because it's ripped off from the very first Resident Evil game! And while it's a super neat Easter egg, it also comes off as lazy. It's been over a decade, we should have better puzzles by now. Granted, RE2 isn't much better, but at least there's an abundance and a variety. Honestly, neither should get this point, but RE2 at least gives it a shot.
Faithfully. That voice is hard to do.
This is a big one. It seems that Resident Evil 2 Remake is on the lead, but if Resident Evil 7 wins this one, I will grant it the victory. And the winner is... Resident Evil 2. While Resident Evil 7 brings on an amazing effort to stick to its roots, RE2 takes the cake by taking what the originals had and making it better. Breathing new life into the zombies, ironically, to make them scary again. Characters that you can genuinely care for, and making you have to map out the entire RPD like the back of your hand once again to successfully escape the world of survival horror. Congratulations to Resident Evil 2 for winning the comparison, but I will mention that I cannot recommend Resident Evil 7 enough. While it has flaws just as RE2 does, it is so worth picking up if you haven't played it already. But for now, I'll see you once again when I step into the shoes of Jill Valentine. Ta-ra.